In the beginning of the first season, we start outside the White House with two regular security guards doing their usual job. Suddenly, things get crazy as the Mirror twins attack. These twins, a mix of the original mad scientist Murr and a clone, are out to harm the president. But hold on, the Guardians of the Globe, a team of superheroes, show up just in time to stop the twins. This group includes the Immortal, Darkwing, War Woman, Red Rush, Aquarius, Martian Man, and the Green Ghost. There's also Omniman, another hero who's not officially on the team but is there to help. They're all working together to stop the twins and protect the president. Now let's switch gears to Mark and his mom Debbie. They're the family of Nolan Grayson, aka Omniman. Despite having a powerful dad from the planet Viltrim, Mark doesn't have superpowers yet. At school, he tries to be a hero by standing up to a bully named Todd, but things don't go well. After school, Mark heads to his job at Burger Mar and takes out the trash. That's when his powers finally kick in. Excited, he rushes home to tell his parents. Nolan, although surprised, agrees to start Mark's training the next day. Mark thinks back to a moment when his dad explained that they come from Viltrim, a distant planet. Viltrimites, like humans, can fly and have super strength. Nolan came to Earth to protect it, met Mark's mom, and had Mark. Now Mark, being half Viltrimite, is developing powers including flight. Back to the present, Mark happily jumps out of bed to test his flying ability. His first flight goes well, although landing is a bit tricky. Flying becomes the main focus of Mark's training with his dad. They work on perfecting this skill before moving on to combat training, teaching Mark how to use flight strategically in a fight. During training, Nolan shows a powerful move that leaves Mark catching his breath. Nolan says it's crucial for Mark to be ready for anything. This upsets Mark, thinking his dad believes he's too weak. To prove himself, Mark lets Todd punch him at school, showing little effect and making Todd run away. After school, Mark puts on a homemade superhero suit and decides to fight crime on his own. He comes across three robbers, one of them named Titan, who can turn his body into rock. Mark defeats Titan and the others, but his dad catches him and isn't happy about Mark's risky actions. Determined to prove himself, Mark asks his dad to hit him again. However, Nolan realizes he's been training Mark the wrong way and gives him a hug instead. Nolan takes Mark to his friend Art Rosenbaum, a tailor for Earth's heroes, to get a proper superhero costume. Mark hasn't picked a superhero name yet, but he chooses Invincible, inspired by his dad's words. With his new suit, Mark fights crime and takes down a villain named Kill Cannon. Meanwhile, the Guardians of the Globe get a false alarm at their headquarters. Before they understand what's happening, Omniman attacks and shockingly kills each Guardian, but he went to coma. GDA agents, led by Director Cecil Stedman, find the injured Omniman and the dead heroes and take them to the Pentagon. Omniman is patched up and the heroes are revived, but Cecil lacks details about the attacker. Downtown faces another crisis as interdimensional beings, the Flaxen, arrive and cause chaos. With the strongest heroes gone, the team steps up. Despite their efforts, the Flaxen remain in control until they age rapidly and retreat to avoid dying of old age. The day after the Flaxen attack, Mark meets Eve at school, leading to an invitation to join the team. In the meeting, it's revealed that Eve is dating Rex, despite his not-so-friendly personality. A few days later, Mark finds out his dad has awakened from a coma, and Nolan is allowed to return home. However, Cecil urgently needs Nolan's help again to face a new threat. Debbie, Mark's mom, disagrees with Nolan's quick return to work. Mark steps in, offering to handle the task. He is sent into space to confront the otherworldly being named Alan the alien. During their encounter, Alan communicates telepathically with Invincible and pauses their fight. He explains that he's an evaluation officer for the Coalition of Planets, ensuring planets have defenders against conquering monsters. Earth never signed up for this program, and Alan confused it with another planet called Uret all along. Realizing his mistake, Alan the alien goes back to the Coalition of Planets, hoping to avoid any consequences. The next day at school, Mark gets good news when Todd, who was blackmailed by Amber, apologizes and gives Mark Amber's number. But the joy doesn't last long as bad news arrives. The Flaxen are back on Earth. According to Robot, they're now immune to Earth's time stream. Robot suggests a nuclear response, but Invincible and Eve refuse to go to such extremes. As the battle against the Flaxen heats up, Omniman returns dramatically, launching a brutal attack that forces the aliens to retreat. He follows them to their dimension, destroying it all, declaring, "Earth isn't yours to conquer." After Nolan's return, news of the Guardians' death breaks, leading to public and private funerals. Cecil asks Robot to build and lead the new Guardians of the Globe, and Robot agrees. Tryouts are held, and the chosen members include Adam Eve, Rex Blood, Duplicate, Shrinking Ray, Monster Girl, and a former Guardian named Black Samson, who lost his powers. Eve quits the team due to conflicts with Rex and Kate. Skipping ahead, Mark hangs out with Amber, and they agree on a study date at his home. Cecil interrupts, needing Mark's help to take down a rogue villain named Doc Seismic. Mark and Eve deal with Seismic and later return to Amber, smoothing things over. Rex tries to reconcile with Eve with a fireworks show, but she ends the relationship. He goes to Mark's house. Eve tries to talk to Mark, but Mark is still occupied with Amber. Shifting focus to the aftermath of the Guardian's death, Debbie is working late when Damien Darkblood, the demon detective, visits. Darkblood suggested Omni-Man was the culprit, but Cecil dismissed it. Darkblood hopes Debbie may have insights, but Nolan interrupts. Later, Darkblood confronts Nolan, suggesting he was behind the murders. They both acknowledge it wasn't Nolan, and Darkblood insists the truth will come out. When Nolan returns home, he and Debbie argue about his strange behavior. Cecil interrupts, asking Nolan to shadow NASA's Mars mission, but Nolan declines. Mark takes up the offer and travels to Mars with NASA. On Mars, he finds the astronauts missing and encounters parasitic aliens called Seeds, who want to take over a host and become unstoppable. Mark prevents the execution of the astronauts, flying them back to Earth. However, one of them has been replaced by a Side. The possessed astronaut unleashes more Seeds on the Martians, causing chaos. Meanwhile, Nolan tries to mend things with Debbie by taking her to Italy during Mark's absence. Back on Earth, Darkblood searches Nolan's house but is interrupted by Cecil and GDA agents. Nolan accuses Darkblood of the murders, backed up by fabricated evidence. Cecil, aware of Nolan's deception, brings Darkblood to the Pentagon for punishment. To keep Nolan's involvement hidden, Cecil lures Darkblood into an exorcism and sends him back to Hell using the Demoness Ex Mortem. Returning from the Mars mission, Mark struggles to balance his superhero duties and his relationship with Amber. He frequently misses their plans, leading him to volunteer at the Beckwell Community Center to make it up to her. Flying over the city, Mark encounters Titan, a former foe seeking help to take down his boss, Machine Head, who threatens Titan's family. Mark is initially hesitant, but decides to assist Titan after witnessing his genuine concern for his family. Before Mark's volunteer work at the community center, he and Titan attempt to apprehend Machine Head at his penthouse. However, Machine Head anticipates their arrival and hires 5 powerful supervillains: Battle Beast, KK, Magmaniac, Tether Tyrant, and Furnace, to stop them. The villains overpower Mark and Titan in a brutal brawl. The new Guardians of the Globe arrive but struggle to work cohesively. Battle Beast dominates the fight, severely injuring Invincible, Black Samson, and Monster Girl. The wounded teammates inspire the Guardians to unite and ultimately defeat the villains, except for Battle Beast, who leaves on his own. Machine Head tries to escape, but his teleporting ally, Isotope, is nowhere to be found. Rex knocks out Machine Head, leading to his arrest. At the hospital, the GDA rushes Invincible, Black Samson, and Monster Girl for treatment. The doctors successfully revive them, with Black Samson unexpectedly regaining his heartbeat and superhuman abilities. Monster Girl also recovers, with assistance from Robot, who develops a keen interest in her. Meanwhile, back at the Pentagon, Titan reveals he used Invincible to absorb the brunt of Machine Head's attack, positioning himself as the new kingpin of the city. Mark eventually recovers to 100%, and after convincing Amber that his injuries were from a bus accident, he tries to start fresh. They take a trip to upstate university with Mark's best friend, William, who has a crush on Rick. The outing seems to improve their relationship, and plans are made to attend upstate U together after high school. However, trouble arises when a cyborg emerges on campus, forcing Mark to suit up as Invincible to stop it. During the battle, the cyborg accidentally takes itself out when it sees its own face after its helmet is knocked off. Meanwhile, William figures out Mark's secret identity as Invincible, but Amber grows furious at Mark for seemingly abandoning them during the attack, refusing to speak to him for the rest of the trip. Later that night, Rick and William get kidnapped by another cyborg, leading Mark to rescue them in the sewers. In the sewers, they discover a sinister plot by a scientist named D.A. Sinclair, who is turning people into cyborgs. William helps Rick remember his identity, turning him against Sinclair. They free the other two cyborgs from Sinclair's control, and Invincible defeats Sinclair, calling Cecil to take him into custody. The next morning, as they drive back home, Amber still refuses to talk to Mark. To explain his behavior, Mark reveals that he's invincible, but Amber already knew about his superhero identity. She's upset that he made her feel unimportant, leading to their breakup. Meanwhile, Debbie finds Damian Darkblood's notepad, left for her to discover, containing intriguing notes about Nolan's damaged costume from the Guardians' attack. She searches the house and discovers the costume covered in blood, taking it to Art Rosenbaum for further examination. Art Rosenbaum's examination of Nolan's damaged costume conclusively proves that Nolan was responsible for the murder of the Guardians. Confronted by Debbie, Nolan claims he had no choice and insists she needs to trust him. Unconvinced, Debbie demands he leaves immediately. Following Nolan's departure, Donald Ferguson and GDA agents swiftly take her to their base. At the GDA base, Cecil reveals that he knew Nolan killed the Guardians but struggled to find a way to defeat him. Now he believes their only hope against Omni-Man is Invincible. In case that plan fails, Cecil also calls the Guardians to meet at their headquarters for further instructions. Since their battle against Machine Head's supervillain team, the Guardians have formed a strong bond, particularly between Robot and Monster Girl. However, it's revealed that Robot is not an actual robot, but a drone controlled remotely by a scientist named Rudolph Connors. Keeping his real identity hidden due to severe deformities, Rudy decides to create a new body, seeking the MARS expertise in tissue growth and DNA replication. Robot helps the MARS escape from prison, and they agree to build him a new body using a sample of Rex's DNA. The new body is completed, and Rudy's consciousness is transferred successfully. The original Rudy asks his new self to end his suffering, which the new Rudy obliges. Afterward, Rudy tells the MARS it's time to go back to prison, but they refuse. Using a neural link installed by the MARS, Rudy unleashes a giant robot attack on them. However, he's called away to the Guardians HQ. At the Guardians HQ, Rudy introduces himself to the team, explaining his transformation, shocking most of them, especially Rex. Despite the shocking revelation, it seems to have gained Monster Girl's affection. Shifting back to Omni-Man, returning home, Nolan faces a group of GDA agents, but swiftly dispatches them. He notices Donald and more agents spying on him and pursues Donald. In a desperate move, Donald sacrifices himself by triggering a bomb, hoping to incapacitate Nolan. However, the bombing has no effect, and Nolan sets off to search for Mark. Meanwhile, Mark vents to Eve about the Amber situation, and she shares her own problems after breaking up with Rex and having issues with her parents. With Omni-Man approaching, Cecil attempts a satellite attack, followed by 3 cyborgs named Ranin, created by D.A. Sinclair. Despite putting up a good fight, Nolan emerges victorious in both instances. Cecil's last resort is Hail Mary, a colossal kaiju creature enhanced with every drug and upgrade available. Hail Mary proves to be a formidable opponent against Nolan. Mark and Eve, hearing the chaos, rush to help. Eve receives a call from Cecil, informing her about everything and directing her to Guardians HQ. While Mark engages in battle to assist his father, the MARS revives Mortal's body, planning revenge on Rudy. However, Mortal resists their mind control and rushes off to confront Omniman. Immortal attacks relentlessly, leaving Invincible to fight Hail Mary. Mark manages to defeat the kaiju with an electric cable, just in time to witness his father murder Immortal once again by slicing him in half. Initially thinking someone is controlling Nolan, Mark soon learns the truth about his home planet, Viltrim. Nolan reveals that Viltrim created a perfect civilization by eliminating the weak and reducing their population. Once the most powerful empire in the galaxy, Viltrim sought to become the only empire by either assimilating planets or destroying those who resisted. As their empire expanded, the Viltrim forces faced challenges, prompting trusted officers like Nolan to weaken planets individually. Nolan was assigned to Earth, and now that Mark has gained powers, Nolan believes it's time for Earth to join the Viltrim Empire. Mark is horrified, especially at the revelation that his mother, Debbie, is considered more like a pet to Nolan. Refusing to help conquer Earth, Mark faces a brutal attack from his father. Nolan unleashes devastation on the city, causing mass casualties, attempting to force Mark into submission. The assault intensifies as Nolan hurls Mark into the subway, using his body to kill civilians. Despite the vicious beating, Mark refuses to surrender his home. In a moment of hesitation, Nolan's mind flashes back to a memory of Mark playing baseball and the joy it brought him. This memory prevents Nolan from delivering the fatal blow. Unable to kill his son, Nolan berates Mark for fighting a futile battle. Mark, expressing his desire to still have his father, appears to break Nolan down. Nolan flies away from Earth, leaving destruction in his wake. The GDA arrives to pick up Mark, taking him to the Pentagon for recovery. The Guardians focus on saving people from Omniman's rampage. Meanwhile, the MARs are found and transported back to prison. After weeks of recovery, Mark returns home, where he is greeted by William and even Amber, who kisses him, leading to them getting back together. Their reunion is interrupted when Mark receives a call from Cecil, informing him of an approaching visitor from deep space. It turns out to be Alan the alien, warning Mark of a Viltrimite on his planet. Mark offers to help the coalition of planets, but for now he must deal with Earth's villains, leading to a montage as the season concludes. And that wraps up our recap of Invincible Season 1.